Hello, and welcome to a history of computers and programming and music media making machines and printmaking too. I can't really do this without acknowledging printmaking. I've always been fascinated with computers because when I was a kid, my dad would bring computers home. This was back in the 80s when computers only had two colors, the black of the screen and the green. And he was using computers to do cool things at work, and I wanted to know about it. He brought some games home and showed me that computers could be used to play games, and I was fascinated. The abacus was the first computer. It first emerged in Sumeria, we think, way, way long ago. And sometimes archaeologists cannot tell the difference between a counting device and a game. Mancala boards have been found from 5870 BC. Do we owe the existence of calculating and adding machines to games? Here's a picture of a sundial, an astrolabe, and a slide rule. Mechanical clocks were first developed in Germany. They didn't have hands, they rang bells. In 1270 to 1300, the early Renaissance. Took a long time, but then eventually someone developed the handheld clock, the watch. He was born in 1485. I don't know when he designed it, but Da Vinci was born in 1452, for context. The hurdy-gurdy was kind of like the first music shortcut. Violins are complicated to play. You need to have a really good ear. You need to memorize. The hurdy-gurdy was like a way to play multiple notes at the same time. You press buttons and you turn a crank. It kind of plays for you. Early hurdy-gurdies were including the organstrum. It had to be played by two people. The Gutenberg press was invented in 1440. It could produce 3,600 pages per day. Before that, books had to be copied by hand, and there was no mass media. This allowed literacy to expand. Suddenly, there was a reason to learn to read. Your lot in life could be improved if you knew how to read, and then people started to make advertisements, propaganda, and more than just Bibles. It used to be that monks copied Bibles by hand. That took a long time, and when the printing press came out, there could be more than just Bibles. You know what I mean? Here's a tide predicting device on the right, and on the left is a Dumaresque analog calculation device installed on a ship in 1902 to accurately fire upon enemy ships when both the target you're shooting at and you yourself are moving. It's not a picture of the first pipe organ. I'd love to find a picture, but we don't know what it really looked like. They were believed to be invented in ancient Greece in the 3rd century. They were installed in churches in the 13th century, and sometimes they were so big that air was pumped by 10 men while another man played the music. This inspired the Jacquard loom in 1804, where textile machines could make more elaborate patterns than humans could by hand. Have you ever heard of Charles Babbage? He envisioned a adding machine, a difference engine, in 1822, suggesting a device that could solve large, big math addition problems without error. It was never completed in his lifetime, but he also envisioned a bigger, more elaborate machine that could do more math than just addition. It could do subtraction, multiplication, division, powers, and he called that the analytical engine. And he had a young student who was a woman named Ada Lovelace, and she saw the potential for this machine to do more. She was like, oh, maybe the numbers could represent other things. Maybe it could even make music. The player piano was invented in 1896 by Edwin S. Voti, and this was allowing somebody to make a composition and then save it to a scroll, which could be shipped via Pony Express or whatever, and then someone else far away could listen to a performance. Notice the foot pumps on the floor. This was made without electricity. The typewriter, whoa, this was developed by a newspaper editor. Design of the keyboard, you notice the first line of the keyboard says QWERTY. This was made so that you could alternate between right hand and left hand as you type. There's a myth that it was designed to slow people down to prevent jamming, but that's not true. It was really designed to speed people up. Here's Alan Turing. He developed machines that helped win World War II by deciphering German codes. It is said that if a machine can trick a person into believing that it is a human, it has passed the Turing test. Because he was gay, and in 2009, the British Prime Minister made a formal apology to the way he was treated. Okay, the Jacquard loom eventually turned into the computer. Seems like a big leap here, right? But the loom used cards that had holes punched in them, and that would sometimes allow thread to pass through, and sometimes it wouldn't allow thread to pass through, and that was what the first computers used. Here's a picture of the ENIAC, the first electronic large-scale computer. These computers had no memory, so they could be programmed to do something, but then, if you wanted them to do something else, it took maybe days to reprogram them. This was when a computer filled an entire room. Konrad Zuse made the Z3 in Germany in 1941. He thought that math was boring, so he developed a computer to solve problems faster. It's said that he brought his prototypes to the Nazis and said, "Hey, would you like to invest in me? I'm making computers." And the Nazis said, "No, we think this war will be over in a few years, so we don't want to invest in something that'll take 10 years or 20 years to develop." Most of his prototypes were destroyed by Allied bombs. The calculations to build bridges or planes weren't much fun. You could say I was inspired by my laziness to build the computer. He utilized a binary system, and he used relays from telephone technology. He used discarded celluloid film instead of punch cards. So did film, which is kind of cool how art and communication inspired calculation. This is called the Manchester Baby. It was the first electronic stored program computer built at the University of Manchester by Frederick C. Williams, Tom Kilburn, and Jeff Tootle, and it ran its first program in 1948. Now, across the ocean in Europe, George Antheil was inventing noise-making devices to use in his avant-garde compositions. Critics at the time didn't like him. They said, "Oh, he's not very good, he's boring, artless, naive." He was receiving a $150 per month stipend from Marie Louise Curtis. He envisioned countless player pianos working in tandem, but he settled for 5 for one of his compositions. It was a real engineering challenge to get them all to play together. He met a woman named Hedy Lamarr, who was an actress and an inventor, and they collaborated on an invention that would eventually change the world. They developed something that would turn into Wi-Fi. It was called frequency hopping. Now, of course, someone else can listen in on your message if you're just transmitting on one frequency. But if you're switching between different frequencies, then someone else listening in has no idea. So that's what George Antheil and Hedy Lamarr developed. It's believed that the market value of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS is over $30 billion. Charles Babbage's difference engine. On the right, this is Tom Kilburn and Freddie Williams with Baby. Alan Turing on the left. His work eventually turned into the microcomputer in 1977, the first computer that could be purchased by the public and in the people's own homes. Here are some of the first portable computers: the Osborne in 1981 that weighed 245 pounds and cost $1,795. This one, it was the Epson HX20, developed in Japan and had a built-in printer. You see there's a little tape device on there? That's pretty cool. Okay, we're almost done, but here's a bonus. The linotype machine was a technology that allowed newspapers to go from 6 to 10 pages to 30 or 60 or 100 pages overnight. It was a device that printed metal lines of type that could be covered with ink and printing. That was developed by Ottmar Mergenthaler, and this replaced the hand setting of text. The individual P, R, O, M, I, S, E, individual stamps for all the letters, was replaced with a linotype machine. But this machine was so hot because it worked with molten metal, and in the hot weather, sometimes the paper buckled and it wouldn't allow for clean, crisp printing. So, by coincidence, perhaps, someone developed the air conditioner to cool the air, removing the moisture from the air, which would allow the printing process to go smoothly. So, if any of you have ever wondered, what did the arts ever do for us? Well, you got to ask, did board games lead to data science and computation? Did programming emerge from musicians and composers? Do we owe the concept of the internet and the satellites to the player piano and an actress? And do we owe air conditioning to printmaking? Things to think about. Thank you very, very much for listening to my lecture on the history of computers. I am very much willing to be corrected if I am wrong. And if you have any comments for suggestions for things I left out, please leave a comment below. Thank you. Bye.